Hey guys, welcome back to FED Learning. Before we start, if you are new here, consider subscribing to FED Learning, and if you enjoy this video, kindly share your feedback in the comments section. I would love to hear from you. So in our Angular 19 series, so far we have covered nearly all the essential concepts. Now it's time to explore storage. So in this video, we will dive into the world of storage in Angular, covering three important topics: session storage, local storage, and cookies. So let's start with session storage. Session storage in Angular is a way to store data temporarily for the duration of a browser session. And it allows you to store key value pairs that can be accessed and manipulated throughout the application. This means session storage in Angular is like a temporary memory for your application. It stores small bits of data like a username or a setting only while you are using the application. When you close the browser, the data disappears. So the key feature of session storage in Angular are: temporary storage, means data stored in session storage is deleted when the browser tab or window is closed. Next, key value pairs. Session storage stores data as a key value pairs, making it easy to access and manipulate. And last, accessible throughout the application, which means data can be accessed from any component or service in the Angular application. Now let's talk on when to use session storage. We can use session storage for temporary data storage that doesn't need to be persisted across browser sessions. Second, form data. Storing form data to retain user input even if they navigate away from the page. And we can also use session storage for storing navigation history within a single tab. Next, to use session storage in Angular, we use the session storage object, and this object has four simple methods. First method is setItem, session storage dot setItem. This method stores a value. Second method is getItem, session storage dot getItem. This method is used to retrieve a stored value. Third method is remove item, session storage dot remove item. It deletes a stored value. And last, clear. Session storage dot clear. It deletes all stored values. So these methods make it easy to work with session storage in your Angular application. Now let's switch to Visual Studio Code Editor and try out all four methods. And in our Angular 19 project, I have created new component called storage and added a route for it inside routes.ts file. And also I have added the link to the navbar inside app.component.html file. So if I open the browser and when I click on storage in the navbar, I can navigate to the storage component. So let's start coding in the storage component HTML file and TS file. Let me close this router.ts file as well as the app component.html file. And inside the template file of storage component, I'll start by adding the basic HTML structure. Div with container dot text center, and inside this div, I'll add one row with class margin 4, and inside this I'll add one more div with call3. And now I'll create four buttons, each representing one of the session storage method. So here I'll add first button with class btn info, and the button name is set session. And also I'll add a click event to this button and assign the set session method. Now I'll repeat this call3 div three more times for the remaining methods. Close this terminal and let me update the button names. This button is for get session with method get session. Third button is for remove session with method remove session. And last button is for clear the session with method clear session. And also I'll add one heading here inside H4. I'll add session storage with class text info. Now next, let's switch to the TypeScript file and define these four methods like set session, and then get session, then remove session, and last clear session. Now, inside each function, we need to call the respective method. And as we discussed earlier, to use session storage in Angular, we need to use the session storage object. The session storage dot. Once I press dot, here you can find the set item method and which accept two parameters, key and value, which is of type string. So I'll pass key as a name, comma. For this name key, I'll pass the value session. And similarly, we can pass the multiple key value pairs using the set item methods. For example, I'll add another pair with key pass and the value session 123. So in this way, you can store as many key value pairs as you need. Now let's move on to the get session method. And here we can retrieve the stored value using the get item method of session storage. For example, session storage dot get item, which accept one parameter key, which is of type string. Therefore, I'll pass the name inside this round bracket with quotes. And to display this value in the browser, I'll create new variable called session value of type string equals to empty string. And now I'll store the retrieved value in the session value variable. And to display the retrieved value in the browser, I'll bind the session value variable inside the template file. Like here, I'll use if control flow statement at the rate if, and inside round brackets, I'll pass the variable session value. And inside this if block, I'll write session value. Using string interpolation, I'll bind the variable name session value. Alt Shift F, format the document. And now I'll switch to the class file, and inside remove session method, again I'll use the session storage object dot remove item method, and this method also expect one argument key which is of type string. So here I'll pass another key called pass as a parameter to this remove item method. And finally, inside clear session method, I'll use the clear method of session storage object, session storage dot clear and round brackets. And this method will remove all the key value pairs that are currently stored in the session. And after calling this clear method, I'll assign an empty value to the session value variable to reset it. So far, we have added 4 buttons inside the template file and added one if block to see the session value in the browser. And inside TS file, we have defined all 4 methods. Now let me open the browser and test all 4 methods. And to do this, we need to open the developer tool and navigate to the application tab. And here under the storage section, you will find the session storage. Inside this, we need to click on this localhost 4200 and you will see the table with 2 columns, key and value. And this is where our session values will be stored. So now I'll click on the set session button, and as you can see, the two key value pairs have been stored in the table. First name with value session and second pass with value session 123. Now, if I click the get session button, we can retrieve the value of name which is displayed in the browser through the session value variable. Next, if I click the remove session button, we can delete the past session from this table. Here you can see now we have only one session in the table. And finally, when I click the clear session, we can completely clear the session by removing all the keys and values from the table. I'll reset the session on click of set session, and I can clear the session on click of clear session button. However, if I open another browser and run the same application on localhost 4200, and here also if I check the application tab inside developer tool, I won't see the sessions. So first, let me click on set session and let me split the browser. And now you can see here, let me clear the session from this browser as well. And now you can see both tables are empty. But in this first browser, if I set the session on click of the set session button, but inside this second browser, I won't see the sessions we set from the other browser. So this indicates that session storage only stores information for that particular browser. Once you leave the browser, the sessions get deleted. So using session storage object, we can store sensitive information like login details, which gets deleted when you close your browser. But if you want to keep the stored information even after closing the browser, then instead of session storage, you can use local storage. Local storage allows you to store data that persists even after the browser is closed. So now let's go back to the presentation and learn more about local storage. Local storage in Angular is a way to store data locally on the client side, even after the browser is closed or the user navigates away from the application. Like session storage, local storage also allows you to store key value pairs that can be easily accessed and manipulated throughout the application. So the key feature of local storage include persistent storage or permanent storage. Data stored in local storage remains available even after the browser is closed. And we use local storage for three main purposes. First, storing persistent data that remains available across browser sessions. Second, saving user preferences. And third, caching frequently accessed data to speed up the application performance. And to use local storage in Angular, we can work with the local storage object, which is the part of browser's web storage API. And similar to session storage, local storage provides four methods to manage data. First method is local storage.set item. It stores a value in local storage using a key value pair. Second, local storage.get item. It retrieves stored data using the corresponding key. Next method is local storage.remove item. It removes stored data using the corresponding key. And last, local storage.clear. It clears all data from local storage, removing all key value pairs. So let's quickly try this as well. And inside template file, let me add a horizontal line using the HR tag. And then I'll copy paste the same code and I'll update the button name and function name. So instead of session storage, I'll write local storage, and here also instead of session, I'll write local. And this time I'll use green color for text as well as button. Success. Here instead of session value, I'll write local value, and I need to declare this local value variable inside the TS file. Now inside TypeScript file, first I'll create the variable called local value and initialize it with empty string. Next I'll copy paste the same four methods and update their names to reflect the change from session storage to local storage. L should be capital. And this time instead of using session storage object, I'll use local storage object. And to clearly see the difference between session storage and local storage, I'll use different key value pairs. So the first key will be username with value local, and second key will be password with value local123. And inside this get local method, let me update the key name as well as I'll update the key name inside remove local method. Okay, we did the same thing for local storage as well. We have added four separate buttons for local storage and defined respective methods inside TS file. And inside this clear local method, I need to clear the value of local value variable. Now let's test this local storage in the browser. And similar to the session storage, we can find local storage in the application tab under the storage section. And when I click on this localhost 4200, you can find the same table with two columns, key and value. When I click the set local button, the two key value pairs are added to the table. First key username with value local and second key password with value local123. Now, when I click the get local button, display the local username value inside the session storage space. I forgot to update this inside the local storage. So here, instead of session value, I need to write local value. Now, if I click on Get Local button, you can see the respective value displayed in the browser. And on click of the Remove Local button, it deletes the password key value pair from the table. And when I click the Clear Local button, the table becomes empty. However, if I reset the values from this browser by clicking the Set Local button, and now if I open the another browser, here, let me go inside local storage, and here you can see the data is stored in both browsers. Let me change the order, username password and username password. And if I click on Remove Local button from any browser, it deletes the password data from both browsers. And if I click on Clear Local button, it clears the local storage in both browsers. So this demonstrates that local storage data is stored on the computer and persists even after closing and reopening the browser. And in contrast, if I go inside the session storage data is specific to a single browser session and is not shared across multiple browsers. As you can see, when I reset and clear the sessions, the changes only affected to the current browser and are not reflected in the other browser. So there are two types of storage in Angular, session storage and local storage. Session storage used for session storage where data is stored temporarily and deleted when the browser is closed. Whereas local storage used for local storage where data is stored permanently and retained even after the browser is closed. So the main difference between session storage and local storage lies in how long the data is stored. But note that local storage only stores data on the client side, that is in the user's browser. However, if you need to communicate with the server, you will need to use cookies. So now let's move on to understanding cookies. In Angular, cookies are small pieces of data that are stored on the client side and sent to the server with each HTTP request. So here, cookies have three key features. Small data storage. We can store a small amount of data like up to 4 KB. Second key feature is client side storage, means in the user's browser. And third feature is sent with HTTP request. We can send data to the server with each HTTP request. So when to use cookies in Angular? Cookies are idle for storing authentication tokens or session IDs to verify user identity. And we can use cookies to store user preferences like language settings or theme choices to personalize their experience. Also, cookies can be used to track user behaviors or analytics, helping you to understand how users interact with your application. And to work with cookies in Angular, we can use a library like ngx cookie service, and we can easily install it using npm command. After installation, we will have three main methods to manage cookies in Angular using the cookie service provided by the ngx cookie library. So the first method is .set method, which sets a new cookie with specified name and value. Next, we can use the .get method to retrieve the value of cookie with the specified name. And third method is .delete method. It deletes the cookie with specified name. So these three methods provide a simple way to work with cookies in your Angular application. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code Editor and we will try to implement these three methods of cookies. So to work with cookies in Angular, we need to install the cookie service using the command npm install ngx hyphen cookie hyphen service. So here, before I hit enter, let me open package.json file and here I'll find ngx cookies. You can see no result with this name. Now I hit enter and after running this command, we can verify that the ngx cookie service package has been added to our project in the package.json file. Now next, to use the cookie service in the storage component, we need to create an instance of cookie service by adding it to the component constructor through dependency injection. So here I'll write private cookie colon cookie service, in which we need to import from ngx cookie service package. Okay. Now we have the cookie service instance. So we can use this local variable cookie to access the set, get, and delete cookie methods. So first let's update the template file. And again, I'll add one horizontal line and I'll copy paste this local storage row under the cookie. So here instead of local storage, I'll write cookie. And since cookies only require 3 methods, so I'll remove one div and I'll update the method name with set cookie, get cookie, and delete cookie. And the button names for these methods, set cookie, get cookie, and delete cookie. And I'll change the variable name for cookie is cookie value. Same I'll update here and here. And this time instead of success, I'll use the different color warning. Same I'll paste for buttons. Let me test this in browser. Okay. Before that, we need to define the methods inside TypeScript file. So let me quickly define 3 methods inside the TS file with name, set cookie, get cookie, and delete cookie. And also I need to declare the variable for cookie with name cookie value. Now save the changes. And if I open the browser, we can see 3 buttons under cookies. Now, inside these 3 methods, instead of using local storage methods, we need to use the cookie service that we injected into the constructor. So here I'll use cookie dot set method, and inside parenthesis we need to pass the name and value. So I'll pass token1 as a name and I'll pass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a value for this token name. Similarly, I'll set another cookie named token2 with value xyz. Now inside get method, I can retrieve the value of this token1 or token2 cookie. So I'll write cookie.get and inside parenthesis, I'll pass the cookie name token1. And now inside delete method, I'll delete the token1 cookie. So cookie.delete and inside parenthesis, I'll pass same token name token1. And after this delete method, I'll assign empty string to the cookie value variable. Okay, now save the changes and let's test all 3 methods in the browser similar to how we tested session storage and local storage. So to view the output, we need to go inside the application tab again and we need to click on cookies under this storage. Here you can see. So let me click on this localhost 4200. Here you can see the table with multiple columns, name, value, domain, path, expiry, etc. So let's start by clicking the set cookie button. I need to refresh the cookie. And now we can see the token name and value listed in the table. And here we can see the domain name localhost. And additionally, we can set the expiry date for the cookie by adding comma and specifying the number of days. For example, here I'll add 1 means the cookie will expire in 1 day. So I have added 1 day expiry to the first cookie. Save the changes and we need to refresh the cookie. And here you can see the expiry date is added to this first cookie. Now let me click on the get cookie method. And again, I forgot something about get cookie. Okay, here we need to store the cookie inside cookie value variable. Now I'll click on the get cookie method and here we can see the value of token1. Now finally, let's click on the delete cookie button. Then I need to refresh the cookie. And after refreshing the cookie, we can see the token1 cookie has been deleted from this table. But if you want to delete all cookies at once, we can use delete all method. So here I'll comment out this delete method and instead of delete, I'll use delete all method. And for delete all method, we don't need to pass any parameter. Now save the changes and let me reset all the cookie. And now if I click on the delete cookie button, And if I refresh the cookie, you can see both cookies has been deleted. And in Angular, if I run the same project in another browser, I can still see same changes in the cookies, similar to local storage. So let me go inside application, and under this cookie, right now the table is empty because from the other browser, I cleared the cookie. So now I'll set the cookie on click of this set cookie button, then I'll refresh the cookie. Now if I open the another browser, here I need to refresh the cookie, and we can see the same cookies in the other browser as well, because cookies are domain specific, not browser specific. Therefore, both local storage and cookies are used to store data on the client side. However, they serve different purposes. Local storage is suitable for storing larger amount of data that don't need to send to the server. On the other hand, cookies are better suitable for storing smaller amount of data that needs to be sent with each HTTP request. So I hope this explanation has helped you to understand the concept of session storage, local storage, and cookies in Angular. Now let's quickly summarize the differences between session storage, local storage, and cookies. First, let's discuss duration. Session storage stores data temporarily for the browser session. Local storage stores data permanently or persistently even after the browser is closed. On the other hand, cookies can be either persistent or session based storage. Next, from the security perspective, session storage data is deleted when the browser tab or window is closed. Local storage data is not deleted automatically. In contrast, cookies are sent to the server with each request. Moving on to the storage limits, session storage and local storage have a higher storage limit of around 5 MB. In comparison, cookies are limited to 4 KB. Lastly, regarding accessibility, session storage and local storage are accessible only from the client side. In contrast, cookies can be accessed from both client side as well as server side. So we can utilize these storage options, such as session storage is ideal for storing sensitive information such as login details, which gets deleted when the browser is closed. Next, local storage is suitable for storing data like shopping cart items on the client side, which remains even after the browser is closed. And last, cookies are helpful for websites to recall user preferences, such as login information or shopping cart contents, providing a seamless user experience. So now you have learned about these concepts, and we have already practiced CRUD operation using JSON server. So I would like you to apply your knowledge by creating your own CRUD operation from scratch. For storage, use either local storage or cookies and implement create, read, update, and delete operations on top of stored data. And with this topic, I'll conclude the Angular 19 tutorial series. I hope you found it helpful and enjoyable. But if you would like me to cover additional topics, please leave your suggestion in the comments below. I'll do my best to create a new video and add it to this series. And one more thing, to help you further with your Angular learning journey, I have provided some additional materials to support your learning. So in the description of this video, you will find links to the source code for this complete Angular 19 tutorial. You can also find a comprehensive Angular 19 tutorial covering everything from scratch. And to keep you up to date, check out my playlist highlighting the latest feature in Angular 18 and 19. So thanks for your time and support. See you in the next video. Until then, keep visiting and keep learning. Thank you. Bye bye.